everyone, and welcome to another episode of PR Explored. PR Explored is the video podcast where we delve into trends and topics related to public relations. I'm your host, Michelle Garrett, a PR consultant, author, and writer. And my guest today is the lovely Brooke Sellis. Hello, Brooke.
Hello. Hey, y'all. How's it going?
Yay. I'm so excited that you're here today because I love your work. I have followed you forever, and it's just nice to have an opportunity to have this discussion, and our worlds kind of collide a little bit. So,
Yeah, I always love chatting with you. We've been online friends for like 100 years. We
I,
need to try to figure out when our friendship started because I feel like it's literally been 100 years.
well, I think right now, in internet time, it's like dog years or what. I don't know. I
Yes,
just
internet time is like dog. Exactly. For every 1 year, it's 7.
But I am so delighted to have you here, and I know a lot about you and your work, but I would love for you to spend a few minutes and just tell us everything that you're up to, the latest and greatest, and I will share a couple of links while you're talking so that people can follow you. So
Yeah.
please go ahead.
So again, I'm Brooke Sellis. I founded B Squared Media. We'll turn 14 next year, which is I I really still can't believe it. And we are a social media agency. So we do social media management, we do paid media management, but our biggest service is what we call social media customer care. So this is where middle market to enterprise size brands um, outsourced to us, and we handle all of the conversations that are happening around their brand, their products, their stakeholders through social media channels with the goal of either retaining customers who are unhappy or upset and gaining potential customers who are asking about our products or services.
That is, I mean, that's so important, and I feel like it's often overlooked. So,
It really is. Yeah. Like I think people are still looking at social media as a content channel, and it's really a CX channel, a customer experience channel. So I think we need to stop focusing on content and start focusing more on conversations. That's my little soapbox moment. Hopefully the only one.
I don't know. I don't know if we can say it too many times. I'm putting your site up here. I put your LinkedIn up here, and I
Thank
will put
you.
a link to the article that kind of sparked this idea for this talk today. So this discussion. So,
Perfect. Yeah.
but, but yeah, just to set the stage a little bit, we are going to be talking about what happens when a company finds itself in the midst of a crisis created by a social media post. It could be a customer complaint that goes viral, for example. I mean, Brooke may share a couple other examples as we talk here. But yeah, please feel free to ask questions, and we will do our best to answer those. I'm sure Rick would love to take questions. I know I always love that.
Yeah. Happy to take questions. Fire away.
So here, so I'm posting this article, and then I will actually get started here with the questions. So let's just set the stage a little bit. So I just kind of described what a potential social media crisis how it could start, maybe. But let's just make sure everyone's on the same page. How would you define a social media crisis?
Ultimately, this is when a brand loses control of the public narrative. So, what we see happening when a crisis starts unfolding, it may not be a full blown crisis yet, but negative sentiment starts to rise. And negative sentiment just means the chatter that's happening, the conversations that we just talked about
Mhm.
are skewing negative. And the reason why a crisis happens is because one negative thing pops up, and then all of a sudden people start globbing on, and it starts spreading faster and faster.
Mhm.
And usually, what we see happen is the brand it can't respond. They either get analysis paralysis, they're not sure what to say, so they kind of let it out, sit out there and fester a little bit. Um, or they are trying to respond, but it's just gotten so out of hand because they didn't handle it early enough that again it spreads like wildfire. So it's not usually one angry customer that creates that crisis or that crisis. It's when the conversation becomes visible, because we all know social media is a spectator sport. So it becomes visible, it becomes viral. And ultimately, what happened is people are starting to lose trust in the brand. So, Michelle, you said it could be like a viral customer complaint. It could accidentally also be an offensive post. Sometimes you'll see a brand post something that seems like tone deaf or offensive to some of the followers or users of that brand. It could also be like product defect videos. Like sometimes customers will actually create videos of products that aren't doing what they say they're going to do, right? So the brand promise is broken. It could also be employees behaving badly
Ooh.
within the brand, right? So an employee might go rogue and post something that sends people into a spiral. So there's a lot of different ways these crises can happen. But ultimately, it all boils down to trust, right? We don't trust the brand all of a sudden because of something that happened.
I always think of social media as a blessing and a curse because, it's I mean, obviously, no one can ignore it as part of their marketing, right? I mean, but it's just, it's so, like, fraught with,
It's
scary,
a spectator sport.
stressful.
Yeah, it's a spectator sport, and unfortunately, literally the algorithms, thrive on negativity. This is a proven fact, right, through research. The way the algorithms are set up, a lot of people will call it like rage bait. You'll see a lot of rage bait types posts, like things that they know that emotion gets us to stay. As brands, we want those emotions to be good, but the algorithm literally lifts up bad emotion because they know that spreads a lot faster, wider, bigger, has more people getting involved. So we're literally fighting against human nature, but we're also fighting against the algorithms themselves when it comes to social media crises.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so I liked, those how you kinda laid out those scenarios. Let's talk about some examples because I mean, really daily, I feel
Several times a day. Yeah.
so you have no lack of material for when you speak or write about, crises. These are just I can't get over it. I mean,
Yeah. There's a lot of examples out there. So like one which I mentioned in the post was Chipotle. So if you didn't see that whole crises, Chipotle had a TikTok fueled crisis because their customers were accusing them of shrinking the portion sizes. And people were actually creating videos and sharing those on socials. They were making duets with each other. There was even local store employees from Chipotle who started chiming in. This is obviously classic crisis territory. It's visitable, it's emotional, and it was spreading, right? It was spreading very quickly. Kit is another example. It used to be ConvertKit, now it's just
oh,
called Kit.
yeah.
They
Yes.
increased their pricing, and man,
Yes.
oh man, did people have some thoughts, right? And so I actually used this in a recent speaking gig at Marketing Profs B2B forum. Shout out Anne. Um, I was showing basically I wasn't showing the crisis side of it, but I was showing how fast these things move. And what
Mhm.
was happening in those conversations is not only were people complaining about these price hikes,
Mhm.
but their competitors, so like Flowdesk and Beehive were coming in and globbing on and saying like, "Oh, hey, you need a free or a cheaper option? We're here to help," right? So I
Yeah.
mean, so a crisis doesn't just affect your customers, it affects customers who are thinking in that consideration mode of buying from your brand. And it gives your competitors an opportunity to grab that friction or that potential churn moment and convert your customer away from you.
Yikes. That I do remember that one because I just saw a lot about it probably because of the people that I I
Yeah.
follow, but, like,
Same. I mean,
man.
we follow a lot of marketers, so we saw a lot of stuff being said. But like, I mean, listen, kid, if you're listening, I love you. You should call me. But the way they handled it wasn't very good because even though it looked like they were responding, it was very much copying and pasting and regurgitating, like, this is what it is. They weren't actually listening. They were just responding. They weren't trying to solve for a solution for a lot of these lower tier, free level, and lowest tier customers. So I bet they lost some market share over that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I know we'll probably talk more about this, but the listening, yeah, I mean, instead of just, I just feel like there's a lot of times just kind of social media posting at, but
Yeah.
not with, thinking about like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of posting it's like, in any relationship, it's a lot of talking to talk and not talking to listen.
yeah,
So, yes.
yeah, yeah, that can get you in trouble really quickly.
Mhm.
Let's see. So, I mean, sometimes I want to talk about how PR plays into this too, and we will talk about that. But so this next question, let me make sure I have it here. Yeah, what's the first thing a company should do if it finds itself in one of these situations? Because I know sometimes I get these panicked calls from a local business or something and be like,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, somebody posted about us and now everybody's, like jumping on, like you said, they glom on and then
Yeah.
the people panic because they're just a small business in many cases
Yeah.
they're just looking for somebody to help them like, figure it out. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, it's mhm.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I think let me hold everybody's hand when I say this because it's gonna come across as mean, and I don't mean it to sound mean, but this is just like tough love, we'll call it.
Mhm,
Um, the first step is to get out of your head and get out of your own way and don't be the ostrich with the head in the sand and get into those comments. You cannot fix what you're not listening to, what you're not watching, and what you're not responding to. So pause for a moment, assess, and then do not panic. Do not post a novel. Don't be like Kit, sorry again, Kit, posting this novel about why the price change and why it's good and blah blah blah. And definitely don't go dark. This is not the time to go silent. So I want you to, when you pause, look at what's happening, look at who is affected, and this means literally affected. So in the Kit scenario, it's their current customers, but it was also potential customers, and we got to look at the level of like competitors coming in and offering, basically what the solution that Kit's customers were complaining about. And
mhm,
then you need to look at how fast is this spreading? So what happened? Who's affected and how fast is it spreading? For Kit in this scenario, it was spreading really quickly. So then once you understand, you can kind of wrap your hands around what's happening. Then you need to acknowledge it publicly and privately. So publicly, yes, put out your statement, make sure you're responding to those angry customers, but try to move some of that conversation into private DMs or offline into email or whatever, phone. Um,
mhm,
I think the biggest thing though is silence is gasoline on this fire. You cannot afford to be quiet. This is how you will most certainly lose market share.
yeah,
And if you can just give a quick, human, empathetic response, that is pouring some water onto that fire. It really will start to quell things again because it's a
mm,
spectator sport. So when you start responding to that first person, that second person, that third person, everyone else who's watching sees
mhm.
that you're starting to address the issue.
And don't you think that this is kind of where your followers and your community can come into play too? Because I know, the one of the ones that I always talk about is the Jenny's Ice Cream, which is
Yeah.
Jenny's is local in Columbus where I live, and it's very popular. Of course, now it's nationwide. But yeah, their fans, their followers, they had a listeria, situation,
Whoopsie.
outbreak. I don't know what the right word would be. But yeah, so they had quite a few, issues with that, but they were able to kind of ride that out, and I think a lot of it was due to the fact that people were so loyal and supportive, their community, their fans were just really on board with them, and of course, that wasn't a crisis that it was a little bit of a different type of crisis, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years now on social, and I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, I really mean this, 9 times out of 10, people just wanna feel heard, right? The minute you address with we use a formula called A cubed when we are trying to talk to someone with, with an empathetic response. So
Mhm,
acknowledge, right? I'm acknowledging your frustration. Michelle, I'm so sorry. I'd be frustrated too, right? Like immediately you go from a level 10 to like, okay, I'm level 5 now because they're saying like, I'd be frustrated too, right? So you acknowledge, then you align, right? So I'm going to align with you and say like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to do XYZ, right? And then that final step is to make sure that you follow up. If I say to Michelle, I would be frustrated too. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a look at your account and come back to you to see if there's any sort of additional discount we could give. I'm pretending like I'm in
Mhm.
the kit situation. I'll get back to you by the end of the day. And then I need to make sure that I come back by the end of the day, like I said I would, and follow up. Even if the answer is, look, I talked to the powers that be and there's nothing that we can do,
Right.
9 times out of 10, Michelle is going to stop posting the vitriol on social because I've done these things. Um, so I mean, it's just communication 101, really.
Right. But I think when it goes to, like, it scales up, it, like, it's not just one person now, it's like it's a lot of people, so, like, I feel
Yeah,
like that's when sometimes when you do have people that are loyal to the brand, they can even help you, like, a little bit, they can defend
they
you
will
and come
too.
to your,
Yeah.
aid, come to your side when you need them the most, and that's I mean, that's another discussion, but, like, that's a reason to really focus on, building your fans, followers, or community, I think that's really important, so,
Yeah, that community and those advocates will jump in. They're actually really quick to jump in and defend the brand. But if you haven't done the work inside of your community by talking to them through social, right, before the crisis happens, they're
yep.
not going to be there to help defend you. So, building that community is really like building a moat
Yeah.
around your brand when these crises happen.
Yeah, build your community before you need it. I'm putting that in.
It's true,
We
it's true.
like little tips and takeaways over here for people. So, and people, please, if anyone has questions, please do ask. Someone says, interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, so you were talking about timing, and I have seen, at least in the PR realm, that there's been advice more probably the last couple years that goes something like, people are going to forget this tomorrow. So we shouldn't do anything. We're just going to kind of wait it out because I've seen that happen. Like, and as far as, okay, so say you're working with a company, there's something going on, the news folks get in touch and they want to talk to the client, the company.
Yeah.
Sometimes the company wants to hide, wants to wait it out, and they feel like, yeah, by tomorrow there'll be something else taking the headlines and we won't need to do anything. What do you think about that?
I disagree. For social media specifically, I think that advice is dangerous. Yes, attention spans are short, and yes, we have something to be angry about every other minute. So that
Yeah.
could be the case, but attention spans are short. Like you're saying, yes, they're short, but screenshots last forever, right? And as I mentioned earlier, the algorithms are amplifying anger. That is literally how they are built. So ignoring a complaint on social doesn't make it disappear. It usually makes it go viral faster, right?
Mhm.
So other points that I would think about here is on social, we're playing a very different ball game. Customers on social media expect a response within minutes, not days, and not even hours, right? I think the
Yeah.
most recent research says an hour or less is really where response times sit for social media. So if you're even waiting hours, that you might be then
Mhm.
signaling indifference to
Mhm.
that conversation or that customer. And indifference, as we know, again, just think about human relationships because that's all this is, people. I promise you, it's not
Mhm.
hard. If we have indifference with each other in our real lives as humans, that
Mhm.
destroys trust faster than, the negative conversation or the comment. So I wouldn't want to seem indifferent if I were the brand. And, this is my opinion, doing what we do, social care and addressing these conversations, the good, the bad, and the ugly on social,
Mhm.
this is not optional any longer. This is public customer service. It's also how we literally, like I was saying earlier, gain and retain customers. When I'm talking about gaining and retaining customers, I'm literally talking about revenue,
Mhm.
dollars that the company gets to keep or gain because they've just manage these communications in an effective way?
Well, I think a couple things from the PR side of things is that these can do a lot of damage to the brand, and it is financial, as well as just, trust and, like, just goodwill or whatever you wanna call it. So, I mean, to wait it out, see, to me, this advice, I started seeing this, I don't know, it was, I don't, like I said, probably a couple years ago, and I've seen it more, often now, because we do see, like, the headlines, the news moves so fast now. I
Yeah.
mean, breaking news 24/7, right? So, it's not like it used to be where, a story would have legs for days and weeks, sometimes they do, but often it's just like with celebrities, it's like, well, this guy did this today, but tomorrow this person will do this. So, I feel like it's really kind of, I see the sentiment. I understand what they're getting at there, but also I
Yeah.
don't feel like it's probably the best. I thought
Yeah.
that was cringy advice when I heard it. I was like, "What?
It's
They're
giving
gonna
me the
hide?
ick.
They're gonna
Yeah, it's
wait?
definitely
Oh."
giving me the ick too. I just think social is a different ballgame. It moves quickly, and this is where your customers are shopping, they're researching new brands. You wanna be fast and quick on the good stuff
Mhm,
and the bad stuff, and I say good
mhm,
stuff too because that's the whole acquisition piece. They're usually asking that question to several brands, and this is researched by Jay Baer, his report called Time to Win. What
mhm,
he looked at was the brands who respond first to those inquiries typically win the business, even if they're more expensive, because you were the fastest and the most helpful, the fastest. So I think speed is something on social that really is a thing, unfortunately. I also see Rachel's asking
yeah,
what's the third A in A cubed. It's acknowledge, align, and assure. The
okay,
assure part is if I told Michelle, like, "Hey, I'm gonna get to you by the end of the day," I'm going to assure her. I'm going to start rebuilding that trust by coming in before the end of the day and saying, "Hey, here's where I am," or "Here's the solution," or "I tried to get you a discount, but unfortunately I couldn't," right?
yeah,
Whatever that assurance is, within the time frame we gave, we need to make
mhm,
sure we follow up.
okay, great. Um, and so back to this preparation, again, I'm speaking from the PR side, but on the to prepare in advance, because a lot of times I feel like when I start to work with a client, I'll ask them if they have any crisis management plan in place, and most of them look at me like I'm bananas, right? So, but right now, and I have a chapter on this in my book, it's like, a crisis can befall your brand at any point, and it could be
Could be so
anything,
anything,
right? I mean,
literally anything. Yeah.
some businesses I think are more, it's probably more likely, like if like airlines, right? And I know that that's one of the examples in your article too, the United Airlines, which is like like a textbook, like, example, uh, but yeah, so the preparation, so like having a holding statement, having a plan that you update or refer to every once in a while, make sure it's, current, things like that. But how would you say, do you think social and PR should work together on those things? Because obviously I feel like social, is integral to what, PR folks are doing. So
Yeah, 1000%. We work with a lot of PR teams with our clients, and to me, it's like a relay team, right? What's the relay race where you have the batons and you have to like pass it to the next person as they're running? Anyways, that's the way I look at PR and social. It's a relay team. PR sets that messaging framework. So, Michelle, to your point, you have those baselines, those holding statements, those policies. We help our clients also build troll policies, right? Because a lot of social media experts will tell you, oh, just ban, block, delete, hide that comment. Well, guess what? In the real world, when you're actually doing social customer care, you can't do that because
yeah,
sometimes that troll is like one of your top paying clients who just happens to be going on a tirade. You
yikes.
can't block, ban, hide, delete your top paying client because they're going
Mhm,
on a social media tirade. So, troll policies are important. And, so PR sets the messaging, helps build those frameworks, and then social executes those frameworks in
mhm,
real time based on what customers are actually saying. So, again, this is where that listening part comes in because with the kit crisis, they weren't really listening to what was being said. They were just kind of regurgitating the copy, the situation, the crisis
Mhm.
PR information that they were given, and that wasn't helpful. So you do have to respond based on what customers are saying. And then when PR and social collaborate, what happens is you start to get way more clarity, way more consistency.
Mhm.
It sounds more human instead of
Mhm.
just like damage control happening.
Yeah, because there's implications, for I mean, obviously both the social and PR teams, but the company overall too. So, and I mean, I call on legal too in a
Yeah,
situation that
we
is
work
a
with legal a
crisis.
lot. Yeah, we have to get things approved by legal, and I'll say this, I hope you have a great legal team because the legal gives us like here's what we have to say, but
Mhm.
we get the buy-in from legal to not copy and paste that verbatim, but to say it in the way that we need to follow for legal, but still
Mhm.
makes it human and empathetic and personalized to that particular person's situation. That's, everybody talks about hyper personalization. That's what hyper personalization is. It's looking at Michelle coming to me with her issue and looking at her situation literally by itself, not in let me follow policy, but like, well, here's Michelle's situation. How can I say the right thing that's legal and polished and whatever, but still address her specific frustration or situation?
Yeah, because I think I'm speaking now from a customer perspective, but it's very frustrating when lodge a complaint and then, hopefully it's a valid complaint with a company and they do just treat you like, it's just like a blanket, like, "Oh,
Well, this
okay."
is
And they
policy.
send you,
Yeah.
the cut and paste response because I
Oh,
did customer service when I was in college. And so I know how that works, like standard
yeah.
response number 10 or whatever, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes you angry. That'll just fan the flames.
Customers notice that, and
Yeah.
we in our early days got called out a few times on the whole copy and pasting thing. They're like, "Is this a bot? Are you even real?" And now think about that being years ago. Now today, people would really assume that was a bot or AI. So, I
Huh.
think personalization is I'm glad you brought it up. It's such a key part of what we're talking about. You really have to align, do the A cubed with the person and their situation specifically, not the event, but this specific Michelle's frustration and issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna say a lot of people are using, using bots now, so
Oh
maybe
boy,
you
that's
can't
a
tell the
whole
difference.
other conversation. We're gonna need a lot more time for that one.
Oh, man. Oh, golly. Is there any realm of our work where it isn't, you know isn't a thing? But let's answer Rachel's question because
Yeah.
I think this is a timely question, of course. So I'll read it, but can you address the cheeky responses that companies are now making in response to social crises like Hollister, like Coldplay Astronomer? Is that a good approach?
I love it. I love when brands have a personality, but I also think you have to know like we were saying, it's very situational, right? We don't want to be cheeky and funny if Michelle's coming to us with an issue, right? We want to take her seriously. But I do think having that personality in your content leading up to so that's what I was saying earlier about building the community before the crisis happens. When you have that kind of personality with your community and you're cheeky, you're fun, you're answering their questions that aren't bad or negative sentiment with kind of like fun cheeky answers or cute little emojis like a smile or a wink or whatever, right? Whatever the
Mhm,
brand guidelines call for.
mhm,
um, I think that's good because we're humans. We bond with each other based on emotions. I did my undergraduate thesis on this, and basically what it says was there's 4 levels of self-disclosure: cliches, facts, opinions, feelings. As you can imagine, we don't really build trust or feel close to someone if
mhm,
all we do is talk in cliches and facts. But if you look at most branded content on social, it's mostly cliches and facts. The brands that have the big communities that are willing to go to bat for them when a crisis happens, right? The ones who are stepping in are
mhm,
doing so because the brand, with their content, not the crisis stuff, but just with their everyday content on social, talk a lot about opinions and feelings, both sharing that as the brand and then asking for customers' opinions and feelings. It all happens in the emotions. So I think, again, totally fine to have that personality and to work on those opinions and feelings, sharing
Mhm.
your own as the brand, getting your customers' opinions and feelings. But then in crisis mode and situationally, knowing when to kind of hold back on being cheeky or funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it takes a lot of skill to be, clever, and, like, some of these social media managers or teams are, are just they're I think it makes it fun. I mean, people they get a lot of attention, and some of them, the
Yeah.
standout ones really are great at what they do.
Yeah, look at Patagonia. If you wanna see a brand that's still very professional, but uses a lot of emotion, feeling, opinions in their content, look at the brand Patagonia. So it's not like a Wendy's, it's not being snarky and cheeky and all of
Mhm,
that, but they use a ton of really, really good, I mean, it's a case study for any brand, um, opinion and feeling type content. It literally just helps them get closer to their buying audience, not their
mhm,
audience, but the people who actually will buy from their brand.
mhm. Yeah, so they know their audience really well, and I
They
always
do. They
'cause I feel
really
like
do.
was that the one that had there was a commercial that was so great, maybe it was them, I don't know, maybe it was REI. There's somebody that I in that space that I thought, it did a really great job, and I said it to my friend who, like, climbs is a rock climber and, like, a runner, and, like, it
Oh, I
really
think that might
resonated
have been
with us.
REI that you're talking about with that, mountain commercial. Yeah, yeah. No, Patagonia just knows that their people are outdoorsy, they know that they are support climate change, that they wanna help with climate change, and
Mhm,
so they post a lot of opinions and feelings about the environment, the earth, nature, you're right, they get people super involved, they hit in that emotional spot, and then you can see what happens with their market share and stock prices and company prices and all of that kind of stuff. Like, they've just continuously done a very good job hitting that emotional note on social.
yes, and it's like I said, it takes a lot of skill, and then, it's I just don't think social media is for the faint of heart, like and me PR really isn't either. But yeah, I mean, you kinda have to always be, on, you have to be paying attention, and that's hard to live your life online all the time, so,
It is, it is.
so let's talk about we talked about how PR and social can work together, and I just feel like in general, there just needs to be more of a connection and not so many silos across the board, not only when it comes to a crisis, but just in general, I feel like, you know, social can amplify earned media on the for PR, and like we can take into account what social's doing. And a lot of times I feel like sometimes those teams are not talking to each other as much
Yeah.
as they could be. So I would just encourage more of that because yeah, we don't want to be in a little silo.
No, and I think that is the problem that marketers are facing is, marketing's over here and social might be over here and customer experience is over here and products over here and sales is over here.
Mhm.
And it's not helping us. I think this is why we're facing some marketing crises ourselves because everything's so disjointed and everything's operating in a silo. If we all just come together and focus on the customer, I think we'd all survive these hard times a lot better. And when it's not hard times, grow exponentially.
Yeah, I mean, I love that point too because for PR, I know sales is really important too, and customer service because they're hearing from actual customers,
They
and
know
they can tell
immediately.
you
Yeah.
what are the issues, and then sales know about, which customers are happy and which new customers make a great case study or a good, you know, reference for media or whatever. So I just feel like again, everybody and I understand, like, everybody's got their head down, everybody's overwhelmed, and it's hard to do this, but I just feel like, yeah, we could be a lot more effective if we were all kinda,
Working
having
together.
regular check-ins. Yeah, somehow, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's my big goal is to just get more of these teams working together with voice of customer data as the guiding light, I'll call it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about, the care model for managing a social media crisis.
Yeah, so we have this framework, and this is the framework that we use with all of our customer care clients, so our social media customer care clients. And CARE stands for conversation, acquisition, retention, and engagement. So when we're talking specifically about a social media crisis, all four show up, right? Conversations are happening, they're not good. We've got acquisition, probably not happening as much, but we've got a lot of retention happening. Retention means conversations where retention is at stake. This is where we start to see those friction moments with customers or those potential churn moments with customers. And then engagement just means, obviously, in these crises, which we've mentioned, you've got to engage with these people to try to mitigate what's happening. So all four show up, but the most important one is the R in CARE, which is retention. Because a crisis is ultimately a trust problem, we look really closely at those retention conversations and then the intent signals within those conversations. So we're asking ourselves questions like, where are our customers expressing friction? Was it a checkout issue? Was it a pricing issue? Did the product not work as promised? Right now, we're going into brand promise being broken, right? Another trust issue. Then we're looking at who's at risk of churning. Who is that customer? Is it a first time customer? That's not good. Is it a long time customer? That's really not good. We don't want to lose any of our customers, but understanding who the customer is and the customer lifetime value for that person really can light a fire under people. As far like I was giving you that celebrity rant, that this is a real story, by the way. It was a celebrity who was a top customer of one of our clients who was on an absolute tirade on social. We're
Yikes.
not banning, blocking, hiding this person. Number one, they were a celebrity, right? They have massive influence. We can't just be like, oh, delete. Right? So we had to fix it, and we had to do everything we could to fix it quickly because, again, just the influence that they had, but also the money that they spent as a customer. So who's at risk of churning? And then what are the themes that are driving negative sentiment? And this goes more into, if it's not just Michelle complaining, but people have globbed on, like the kit situation, and many people are complaining. What are the themes driving negative sentiment? For Kit, it was pricing. They were really hurting the free level and the lowest level tiered customers. And they basically were like, there's nothing we could do. So sorry. Too bad. So sad. Right? Hopefully you can find a solution that isn't too bad, so sad. But during a crisis, that R and CARE, that retention piece becomes like kind of a neon warning sign for the brand, because the crisis really isn't about that volume of conversation, which a lot of brands can get stuck in, like, oh, there's this many people complaining. It's less about the volume and more about loyalty risk, especially when we're talking about Michelle or the customer who's a celebrity or whomever it is complaining, and then amplifying that through social channels. So if your retention signals are tanking, the R and CARE, you don't really actually have a PR issue. You're going to have a revenue issue. I think this is exactly what happened to Kit. I would be so curious to know how much revenue they lost during that whole crisis, how many people churned. Um, and my final thought here on the R and the CARE framework is, if you use social listening, right? Not just many brands are doing listening and responding in a very reactive way. They're waiting for people to come to them, right? They're
Mhm.
waiting for people to come to them and complain, or post a comment on a piece of their content and complain. They're not looking outside of what's being said to them about what's being said about them, right? People are talking about brands all the time, but they're not necessarily tagging the brand, mentioning the brand on
Right.
social. So, social listening, combining social listening, which helps you be proactive and find all of those conversations when people haven't mentioned or tagged your brand,
Mhm. Mhm.
with this kind of real time engagement that we're talking about. That's how CARE really helps you understand and wrap your hands around the crisis, and
Mhm.
does that in such a way that you can help impact loyalty like keeping people, retaining people, not just, okay, we answered every single negative complaint that came through. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And I will back to the kit thing.
I know
I
kits
am
are
always curious, like, what is the how does it shake out? Like, down the road, like, like, month, 2, 3 out, 6 months out. Like, how does it what does it really do,
yeah.
And I mean, I sometimes, I've looked at that for things, but, as far as crisis management goes, because it can have long-term impacts, but I'm just
Yeah.
always curious, like, if that's, how that's working out for them, so.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote about this in my book, but I don't know if you remember when Nike partnered with Colin Kaepernick to do a campaign for Nike.
Yes.
And Colin Kaepernick, if you don't remember, was the one who would kneel during the anthem. He was basically protesting the treatment of African American players within the NFL. So Nike, it was kind of a risky move. They partnered with Colin Kaepernick to do this campaign, and what we saw on social was people burning their Nike gear, people saying they were never going to, buy from Nike
Mhm.
again because they couldn't believe that the brand would align themselves with Colin Kaepernick and
Right?
all these things. But what happened in reality is their stock took a tiny dip in the beginning and then shot up like over 20%. You know why? Because just like Patagonia, they know who their audience is. They know who their buying audience is.
Mhm.
So the people who they know buy from them most often were really aligned with that messaging and what they were saying in that
Mhm.
campaign and
Yeah.
bought more from Nike in the long run.
Yeah.
So I think you can make risky moves like that as long as you know your audience inside and out, because they created their own crisis, but on the other side of that was a huge increase in revenue.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes it's not about you can't please everyone, right? So you really have to decide, and I mean, you probably should be leading into, like who is your buyer. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing your audience is one thing. Knowing your buying audience is a very
Mhm.
different thing. And I think Patagonia and Nike and some of these brands that we look at as like the premier examples know their audience, but they also really, really know who their buying audience is. So they can take these risks and still come out ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree that, we sometimes well, and it's overwhelming, again, in the moment, so if you haven't thought through it, and a smaller business probably hasn't always, for a big business like a Nike or a Chipotle or whatever, they probably have all kinds of, plans and
Resources. They have more resources. Yeah, they do.
yeah,
But anybody can do this. I'm telling you, you could be a small brand and you can still get to know your audience and your buying audience really, really well. Especially, and it won't cost you the resources that like a Nike or a Chipotle have. With the tools we have now and with AI, oh my gosh, like there's almost no excuse.
well, I think a lot of companies just don't think it's gonna happen to them. I mean, that's my experience is like they just don't they're not really they think but see now there's just so many ways that you can get tripped up and it's not even it might not even be something that you do. It might not be your fault, right? I mean, not,
Right.
there are situations where it's just a misunderstanding or whatever, and then it can just blow up really quickly. So I feel like, this is a part of what they need to be doing to plan and prepare and in the event that something, does happen. So and like I
Yeah.
said, there's just so many situations, I mean, that would I'm sure that I've talked about that on an episode with a guest in the past, but it could be every week, we could be talking about, crises and
I mean, in
slip-ups.
this day and age, literally, you should have like no lack of content for crises happening, even everywhere, but even on social media. I mean, it's really a daily occurrence, sadly.
I know. I was watching the Campbell's Soup, right before Thanksgiving, the comments from the Campbell's Soup
Oh, from
executive
the
that
rebrand.
well, no, it was about, he was talking about how soup is for, like, poor people.
Oh, what? I missed
And it
that
was
one.
right when everybody was making their green bean casserole with the
With the
Campbell's
cream of
soup,
mushroom soup from Campbell's. Oh, no. I
and it
missed that one.
it
See,
was a
like
it was a deposition that, went public somehow. I don't know the details of how it got out there, but then it was like the timing was just I mean, again, like, obviously, you should not say those things ever in any and the mic is always on, like, like,
this is
no.
what I'm saying, screenshots, audio clips, all this stuff that we have now, that lasts forever. So the whole thought of, like, it'll go away tomorrow. Nuh-uh. No, it won't, because that audio clip exists, or that video clip exists, or that screenshot exists. So they now have receipts, and they can use those receipts as long as they want.
For executives, this is so much better to, like, just think before we
Mhm.
try we try to prepare them, but sometimes they just, they're not they just I don't know, people don't think before they, say
Yeah.
it. I mean, you don't there's no way to control what you think, but you don't have to say everything that is
Yeah.
in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Like, silence is really bad on some things, like we've been talking about, but it's also really good in other ways. I think silence before a crisis, golden. Silence after, during a crisis, not golden.
But please don't create a crisis, that doesn't need by what you say, like,
Yeah.
we don't you don't need any, help in that area, you just, there's enough things that can go wrong without you creating a crisis of your own, so they say plan, prepare, think it through, just, like, sometimes you're gonna be maybe caught off guard, but you don't again, you can pause for a minute and think about what you wanna say, just like posting, like, I mean, and again, with employees, and there's no way to control, what they're doing, but I mean, like here's a question. What about the layoffs that happen, that people find out about sometimes on social media or sometimes on a Zoom call there and then people will post those types of things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it. Obviously, as a business owner, right, that gives all of us thought and pause. But these things happen. I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. We're a lot of companies, my clients, many people who I've talked to throughout this year are in a hard spot this year. It's been a hard year for a lot of people. So
Mhm,
layoffs are imminent. I was talking to two friends of mine yesterday at two completely different companies, and they both told me at these different companies, one's a media company, one's a social media company, that layoffs were coming. I mean, so you these are decisions that these business owners have made to help try
mhm,
to right the ship at the business. The way they handle those layoffs is going to be critical because those employees will likely share, and how much they share is obviously up to them, but we've all seen the employees share the actual, like, breaking up with you layoff Zoom meetings,
mhm,
right? Which
mhm,
don't agree with, but that's it happens. It doesn't
mhm,
matter if we agree with it or we don't. We know that it can happen. So
right,
you need to make sure that your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, things are tied up with a bow. You've spoken to legal, you've spoken to your PR or communications expert on your team. If you don't have those people, find someone like Michelle or find a fractional or an outsourced person so that you have it all tied up so that anything that you say in writing or in that meeting, verbally is the right thing. You're saying it the right thing. And I think also, I've been through this situation myself, unfortunately. Saying less is better. The less
yeah,
you say, the better. You stick
yeah,
to the script because
yeah,
you can get yourself in trouble by even just trying to say, like, look, I really love you, Michelle, but we don't have the money. I can't pay you. Like you just have to stick to the script. You kind of have to keep it transactional. And I know that sounds terrible,
mhm.
but because of the world we live in, we know that those things will be taken out of context, will be posted everywhere, and can lead to bigger problems for a company who's obviously already having problems if they're having to lay people off.
Yes, less is more. That is often the advice. I know that flies in the face of what we were talking about earlier, but, like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's really yeah, stick to the
It
script,
really
less
is
is more, prepare.
situational.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all situational. We cannot blanket statement our way through these types of
Mhm.
real issues. Like these are real grimy issues that business owners have to work through, and everything is situational. And if we try to just kind of put a copy paste on all of it, we really are setting ourselves up for a crisis then.
Back to the customization, back to the, we have to take, the situation, and consider the actual people or person involved, in your response, before you just I don't know. It's I don't know, the advice is kind of again, it's based on the situation because yeah, they can't really express their emotional side with a layoff,
Yeah.
situation, but
As much as you
otherwise
want to. Right. I know. It's hard. It's hard. This is I feel like this is what we should be taught in school sometimes other than like long division. People are probably going to come for me for that one. I just hate math. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's easy as an employee, which I've been in my many times. More I've been an employee more often in my life than I've been a business owner, but I
Mhm,
never saw the other side. I couldn't understand the other side. Like, "Well, why are you taking that away?" Or, "Why did you lay that person off?" Or, "Why am I getting laid off?"
mhm.
There's always a reason. It's never without reason. Even if you're the most amazing employee within the company, maybe you're also the most expensive. And so it's
Yeah,
funny to see it from both sides now as a business owner and just how delicate that whole ecosystem and situation is.
mhm. Yeah. Is there what else? Is there anything else that you wanna talk about or share before we kinda wrap up?
No, I think, conversations on social, focusing less on content and more on having the conversations through social media with your audience, which is going to probably consist of your current customers and some of your would-be customers, right? They might become a customer, is key. If you can really start to focus on creating content that gets that conversation going, that's centered around opinions and feelings, not cliches and facts, and build that community when and if you get to a point where a crisis pops up, you will have built that moat around your brand. You'll have people who come in and help protect you in those situations. But you can't get to that until you start having these daily, and I know that sounds scary, but daily conversations. I mean, that's what they're there for. It's called social media for a reason. This is so cliche, but we forget about the social part. We've been using it as a distribution platform. Distribute the content, distribute the content, distribute the we're all on that
Mhm.
content
Yeah.
hamster wheel. None of us are focused on the conversations. If that's the one change you make with social next year is focusing on conversations more than content, I think you'll be better positioned to have a crisis. Not that I want you to, but you will be better positioned if one comes along.
I love that tip, and I think I mean, obviously in B2B, I mean, I'm focused on LinkedIn a lot for clients, and I feel like that is advice that I've been trying to give to them too, is like, yes, you wanna post and share, however, the magic kinda happens in the conversations, right? So, commenting, that's, how to
Yes,
start the
engagement.
conversation. So if somebody
Engagement.
comments,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to come back and, like, I mean, and obviously I mean, most of the time on LinkedIn for my clients, it's not a negative crisis situation.
Yeah.
It's just, somebody saying something and then it's an opportunity for them to build a relationship and trust and, that's kind of how that works. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great tip.
Yeah. I mean, can you think of care, conversations, acquisition, retention, engagement as like a hamburger? Conversations, you got to have those, right? We have to post conversational content to get those conversations happening. We
Mhm.
can't get to the acquisition and the retention understanding unless we're having those conversations. But that other bun is engagement. Just like Michelle said, you can't just be like, everybody come to me and have conversations. You actually have to go out and engage and
Right.
have those conversations so that people come back over here, follow your brand, and join in on those conversations that you're trying to get people to engage with. So it really is, yes, it's kind of like a flywheel, but it also compounds on each other. Really, starting with conversations, acquisition, retention, engagement is kind
Mhm.
of how it works. So that's my second soapbox moment, I think.
And don't use AI to comment,
Oh my
please.
gosh, please, no.
We can
You need me
tell.
to help you figure out how you wanna say your words, because sometimes I'm like, "I can't say this succinctly, help me," and, it'll help me, but, like, the thought and the comment itself is mine.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're missing out now on those authentic conversations, and, I can tell when people use AI to comment. I mean, it's like, "Okay, they commented, that's nice, but
It's
but
not good.
please don't."
It's really not good. Yeah, it's terrible. It's really noticeable. I see Rachel has one more
Oh,
question. So less is
uh-oh.
more sometimes. Less is more, but how should we keep it real on social without sounding scripted?
Mhm,
Don't script it. Don't script it. I mean, yes, for your what we call rules of engagement, we have those scripts that are approved by legal, but we still take those scripts and
mhm,
personalize. So even if you have the script, I'm not saying that's bad because we literally have thousands of scripts between all of our clients,
mhm,
but we are personalizing that script. We're on based on the situation and who the
mhm,
person is. So is
mhm,
Michelle a first-time customer? This is important. She opened her wallet to us for the first time. So we have to think about that in our response. If Michelle's been a customer for 10 years and has a customer lifetime value of $100,000, we've got to figure out how to shape that script into a
mhm.
personalized response for her, because the way I respond to first time customer Michelle and customer lifetime value of six figures Michelle is going to be very different. But I
Yeah.
can still follow the legal scripted guidelines, even though I'm personalizing the other part of that response.
No, I really like that because, again, it's like you don't wanna just use canned responses and, posts and things, but I think it's good to have something, for people to work from because obviously not everybody has is gonna have the experience or, know exactly how to handle, so and it's important, to not
Yeah.
expose yourself legally, so, you have to be careful with that too.
Yeah.
That again, it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's
To be able
nuanced. It's not hard, but it is very nuanced, right? And digital
Mhm,
body language is so important. Looking at the way the person again, we'll keep picking on Michelle, but if Michelle isn't using exclamation points and emoji, I'm not gonna respond using exclamation points and emoji, right? I need to mirror the digital body language of Michelle.
yeah. No, that's a good point too. Boy, there's just a lot to it. So if you find someone who's talented at this, make sure you compensate them appropriately and keep them happy, keep them, keep them on your team.
Yes. Yes, or reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you. But but thanks so much for having me, Michelle. I think this has been great. It's a much needed conversation, and I have a feeling we're gonna be talking about these things more and more, honestly.
Yes, and we'll have to do this again because I think, it's really, I feel like there's just not enough back and forth between social and PR, but obviously, I'm very focused on it and, would love to kinda build those bridges, so I appreciate you spending time today, and you have such great advice. I hope everybody follows you. I put your
Yes,
site, I put your LinkedIn. I appreciate the questions today, and, thank you so much for being here, Brooke. I really appreciate your time. I'll
same.
be back in 2 weeks for the last episode of the year with Bill Byrne. We'll be talking about 2026 PR trends, and I hope to see everybody then, and I just wanna thank you so much. Have a good day.
Bye, y'all.